Good afternoon and happy weekend. Thanks for joining us in this edition of 360 Degrees. The United Nations General Assembly in 1993 declared May 3rd as the day for World Press Freedom Day, a day to remind governments across the globe of the need to facilitate working conditions for journalists in their country, a day to evoke the consciousness in governments that the media is part of nation building. And 31 years after, we are asking the question, where is Cameroon in this fight? Is Cameroon a proud promoter of press freedom in 2024? These are some of the questions we shall be answering in this edition of the program 360 Degrees, and we are beaming live from the economic capital, Douala. Do not move a muscle. We shall be right back. You're welcome back, and this is like a special edition where you have media men in the house, very experienced media men that will be here to share their experiences as far as working in Cameroon as a journalist is concerned. I will begin from my right, yes, where I have Mr. Awa MICAH. He is a journalist working here in Douala. He works for Radio Bonaberi. Mr. Awa, it's a pleasure to have you here to discuss press freedom.
Thank you very much, Hyncenth. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be on the platform today to talk about what concerns us journalists.
Thank you so much. And by you, I have Dr. AKOH. Dr. AKOH is a communication consultant, and he's equally a lecturer of media studies in the university. That is, he is part of those who train journalists in Cameroon. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And
by my left, I have a very experienced journalist. You'll get to know his experience when we shall start the discussions. I have Edi Atawo, who is a freelance journalist here in Douala. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Hyncenth. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, you made us take some of the echoes of the celebrations of the World Press Freedom Day yesterday in Yaoundé and Douala before we shall come back to the studio.
They left their different newsrooms this May 2nd to converge on the streets of Yaoundé, specifically here at Acacia, Biamasi neighborhood, Yaoundé 6, to clean up the abandoned piles of garbage. The Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists, Yaoundé chapter, choosing the cleanup activity as the best way of launching the 31st edition of the World Press Freedom Day.
The theme of this year's celebration of the World Press Freedom Day is centered around the environmental crisis, and there could have been no better way to launch the activities than what we have done, looking at the environment. And we know that Yaoundé is a very dirty city. If we are advocating for change, that the dirty city in which we live should be clean, we should also be part of the change. We are leading by example. That is why we decided to carry out this cleanup exercise. You know, if we are calling on authorities to solve the environmental crisis, we should show them that another way of solving it is volunteerism.
Placed under the theme, A Praise for the Planet, Journalism in the Face of Environmental Crisis, the media men and women are embarking on a series of activities to punctuate the D-Day.
We're going to have a panel discussion on Friday, that is on the World Press Freedom Day proper. We're going to talk on this theme of the World Press Freedom Day and how journalists also can use the theme to write better stories, to educate and call for change. We have also envisaged the symbolic planting of a tree at the head office of the Guardian Post newspaper. It's just our own way of saying we are part of environmental protection.
And aside cleaning the roads and gutters, the journalists also sensitize the population to appropriately dispose to waste in the trash cans and not beside.
In a harrowing scene witnessed this May 3, 2024, On the occasion of World Press Freedom Day, journalists belonging to the National Syndicate of Journalists in Cameroon, SNGC, were chased by security forces as they prepared to make a declaration at the government square in Bonaberi. Adorned in black attire while brandishing placards, they stood as a solemn reminder of the constant dangers they encounter daily. The SNGC disclosed alarming statistics revealing that approximately 70 environmental journalists have fallen victims to attacks, threats, and other forms of pressure due to their work, with a staggering 44 journalists killed over the past 15 years. Amid the turmoil, the syndicate adamantly called for an end to targeted assassinations of journalists, emphasizing the absence of true press freedom in Cameroon.
Il n'y a pas de liberté de la presse. C'est ce foisonnement qui nous donne l'impression qu'il y a la liberté de la presse, mais elle n'existe pas.
Proud to the unsettling manifestations, a workshop convened urging journalists to deepen their involvement in educating the population about the critical importance of environmental conservation.
Journalists live in the same planet with other people, other population. Journalists be the one who have the power of information, and you can use this power to educate people about what is climate change, how to adapt to climate change, and population have to question public policies.
I mean, fact that don't allow journalists to work properly, to give good information, and then to do their duty in the society. So we need to fight about it, because fighting about it is fighting for a better society. Fighting about it is taking care of the environment. Fighting about it is, giving journalists opportunity to bring back good information and to take care of the society.
The National Syndicate of Journalists in Cameroon revealed it has trained law enforcement officers and judges on freedom of expression, as they are equally actors, and plan to continue in that light to protect journalists in Cameroon.
You're welcome back. Just to let you know that in the course of this program, we shall be having the reactions of the President of the National Communication Council, Joseph CHEBONKEng, as well as having the National President of CAMASEJ, Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists, JUDE VIBAN, all the way from Yaoundé. I come back to you in the studio. Mr. Awa, how did you commemorate the World Press Freedom Day yesterday?
Thank you very much, Hyncenth. As a member of CAMASEJ, we had a workshop which was all about the protection of the environment. We needed to understand that journalists can only practice a free press in a safe environment. And so we had a workshop that was on the education of journalists on the responsibilities they also have towards protecting the environment. Apart from that, I think that we also had one-on-one talk with each other based on our responsibilities as journalists towards a free press in Cameroon. Yes, so I think it was a good one. Not necessarily drinking and merrymaking. It was an occasion for us to come together to educate ourselves, especially on the theme. The theme is quite concerning at a time when we are suffering from a lot that is happening to the environment. And this is blamed to human behavior, human activity. Journalists are caught up in that too. We are part of the society we live in. We are part of the community we live in, and it was time for us to have experts talk to us on our responsibility as journalists towards the protection of the environment, and also how we can help educate our audiences on what they need to do to contribute in the fight against environmental degradation and harmful effects that we're impacting on the environment.
Thank you so much. AG, you were also out for celebration, or it was just a moment of reflection in one corner?
For me, it was more a moment of reflection. However, I was very, very interested in the theme, which, you know, what is plaguing the society now is the global warming. It's an environmental theme, and I thought that the theme was quite appropriate. However, I attended 2 conferences in 2 different areas, and I was quite impressed with the conclusions that came out of there. Yeah. But globally, I really did not find anything to celebrate, because it's celebration of the press, the free press. But unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I can't celebrate, because I don't think there is a free press where I practice. Maybe you would like to share with us briefly your daily experiences. My daily experiences have been very, very cumbersome. As a journalist, you have to go out for the facts, because it is the facts that make you arrive at the truth. Sure. But unfortunately, bottlenecks here, you know, there you can't have access here. You are deprived. In fact, there are a lot of challenges that make it impossible to practice the press freely. Doc, you share with a view?
Well, thank you so much. I think what it is saying is contemporary. Yeah. Because if you look at the history of mass communication in Cameroon till date, I think we are still falling back to what we used to have in the past. There's an impression that we have an intention to evolve, at the same time holding down our intention to evolve. Otherwise, we should not be talking about press freedom being gapped in Cameroon today, the 21st century. Just to flash back on the report I heard, it's gruesome that we have people who want to tell society what society ought to be being gapped. It's surprising. It's not only in Cameroon anyway. It's something that people have had to work on, because, you know, when you give a free mind to think, there's a possibility that you, who does not want evolution, would certainly feel hurt. And that's why it is difficult for some people to accept the truth and allow the press to be free. And if Eddie said he had a lot of challenges, those are challenges that are ongoing, and we think it's only a unified voice of the press that will help to rescind the situation, because from the theme of our discussion today, a reclining press in Cameroon, which means over the years, despite the talk of improvement, there's nothing on the ground.
McIntyre, you are maybe not very experienced like they are in the field. You and I don't know, maybe you are more experienced in the field than I am. Okay. But then let's talk about those hurdles, daily hurdles that you encountered in getting information.
Thank you. It has to be about access to public information. It also has to be about someone thinking that you are looking into where you don't have to look into. But as a journalist, at the end of the day, you're asking yourself if you have to look for a dark piece of cloth and tie your eyes with to move around. If that is the case, how then do you call yourself a journalist in such an environment? If we were to talk about access to public information, that is not even allowed, because you find that pretty difficult to do. We would understand. But at a point where everybody feels like you coming closer to them is because you have another agenda, you get to asking yourself, what is it in the cupboard someone is hiding, that the appearance of a journalist becomes a threat? I mean, even when you feel that you have the right to get into this office to get public information, it's not, of course, it's not about your life. Of course. It's not about where you sleep with your wife, not even where your children go to school. So long as you hold a public office, journalists are allowed to knock at your door at any time to get information for the masses. But when you begin to get into a situation where people feel threatened, when a knock at the door is out of a journalist, and it tells you that we really are not free.
Okay, Eddie.
Let me just add something to what he's saying.
Yes.
Hyncenth, when we talk about the press in Cameroon, it's not as if the press, as it were, as it were, is not evolving. It's actually evolving. Yeah. If you look at the number of newspapers in Cameroon, government lets them go. You look at the number of TVs in Cameroon, we have more than 50. Right. That is in chart, and I mean, we have one of the best journalists in Cameroon. Now, the press is there. We are targeting the practice. The practice of the press in this country is the problem. And the paradox is, why is the government making it possible for people to get newspapers and so on, and on the other hand, it makes the practice practically impossible? Let me tell you something. It is only in this country, Cameroon, where you practice as a journalist and you can either die or end in prison. There's no other profession. Just think, there's no other profession where by just practicing your profession in the deontology, you end up either in prison or it's in elsewhere. If you investigate a story, you are given a crown, you are given money, you are motivated to. But here, if you investigate a story and you do it well in such a way that it's going to hit on somebody, the revenge, what you get back.
Your call is stepping on some people's toes.
Is death, is prison, or outright? How do you feel motivated working in such an environment?
Right. Thank you so much. Let's take the first reaction of the Cameroon's President JUDE VIBAN. JUDE, in 2024, would you say press freedom in Cameroon is practical or is still on paper?
Okay, thank you very much, dear colleague, and we're glad to have you here at our office here in Yaoundé, at our secretariat. There is press freedom, it's for that reason that I'm talking to you. You are of the private media house, like so many other media houses in the country. Cameroon has embraced press freedom, no doubt. But there is still a lot of work to be done for us to really come to an acceptable level beyond the plethora of newspapers that we have, radio stations, TV stations, and now the digital, the online platforms that we have. There is more to be done in terms of the quality of information that journalists produce. First, because we don't have the access to information, it's still very difficult. And if you don't have the right information, if you don't have the information that you need, how then do you report it fairly, objectively, and fact-based or evidence-based? So it's necessary for us to move to the next rung of press freedom, which other countries have embraced, and that is the freedom, we call it the Information Act, the Access to Information Act, which per se is a legal instrument that constrains or that makes it mandatory for somebody who is holding information of public interest to give it to you. We're not saying that the state should be giving us defense secrets, but we're asking basic questions. If you go to the Ministry of Basic Education and you just want to know how many students, how many pupils are enrolled all over the country, how many schools we have, all that information, you might turn around there for weeks upon weeks and you finally don't get the information. What somebody will say, I'm waiting on my hierarchy, and the hierarchy never seems to respond, which in effect is a denial to give you that information. But if you had a legal instrument that constrains the authority, the person sitting on the information, to give you the information, you see, you will write reports that are fact-based. Also, the practitioners, us the journalists, you cannot also talk about press freedom when you're not taking care of the journalists. It is an open secret that the journalists is not doing well in Cameroon. We're not asking that we want to be rich. We want to be able that the take-home pay should be able to take us home, so that we don't have to compromise our integrity because of a few francs. And when you compromise your integrity, therefore means that what you're going to be sending out is biased information. With biased information, citizens will not be able to make the right decision. So you see, in just these two aspects. And we also need to follow up by defining who is a journalist. So besides the economic viability of media houses, so that it trickles down to the journalist, besides access to information, we also need to define exactly who is a journalist in Cameroon. It has become the floodgates of the profession are so open that anybody can walk in and walk out at any time. So and that's why you have charlatans, you have quota journalism, you have quacks that have invaded the profession, and you need a legal instrument to be able to tell somebody that you are not a journalist because you do not fulfill so and so. And I think there was a time that there was a congregation of media practitioners and experts here in Yaoundé. I think it was 2008, if I'm not making a mistake, and very succinct suggestions, proposals were proffered, were given to the Ministry of Communication. So we need to review that. We have the 1990 Liberty Laws, which does not take care of digital journalism, for example. So you need to improve on that. You need a new legal instrument, that which is more friendly than repressive, that which does not force you into self-censorship, you know. But your own censorship per se should be the ethics, the deontology, and the canons of the profession. And I think that at that level it's enough. You know, you had the case of the Post newspaper where you have abuse of power. The governor of the Southwest region said he doesn't want the circulation of the newspaper. That says that we are far behind. We need to improve. If we want to be a democracy and to be counted amongst nations as a democratic country, one of the traits of measurement, one of the benchmarks is the level of our press freedom, and we need to embrace it. I always have the tendency of saying that if government makes in such a way that we have a credible press, they also will have a credible channel for which to inform the population. If you make the press not credible, it therefore means that even your messages will not be trusted by the population when you need. So there is a need even for government to make press credible, so that we are able to make informed choices based on the reporting of journalists. We are of the fourth estate, and the other estates sort of depend on us.
Doc, he dwells so much on the need for an Information Act in Cameroon. Would that solve our problem? Would that take us to a level where we want to be in terms of press freedom?
If I listened to Jude very keenly, I went away with four things.
Yes.
The quality of the journalists. You have the quality of content. That is content creation and treatment.
Yes.
You have the economic empowerment of the journalists, and of course the legal instruments. All of these have to be factored in if we have to allow the journalists a level play field to exist. First, we are talking of who creates the news.
Good.
Who creates the information? The 1990 law allows just everybody to do that. And at the level of the quality of the people, it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
Where we don't decipher or differentiate between facts and falsehood. Now, when it comes even to the content, sometimes you start asking yourself, is this worth getting out there into the market? The press censorship doesn't just look like we are seeing, but it begins first from us. Who thinks he has to do what and how? The third place and position is that the journalists in Cameroon, I would say, some people treat them like beggars. They're not economically empowered. Jude spoke about that.
Yes.
If somebody were to be economically empowered, why would, like Jude said, that person go for stipends to tint the news? That is where we are. We're asking, you ask if there could be a legal instrument to make sure that there's a level playing field for us. Yes. Remember, journalists, employers and employees, plus the government had worked over the years to arrive at a consensus for a collective agreement. Till date, that has never seen the limelight. Why? Because there is a need to keep the journalists as a perpetual beggar who would always answer to the call of money to do whatever. It is established. If you look at the quality of papers we have out there, a shouting headline says, on veut quoi au ministre, les jaloux doivent mourir. That is a headline that a newspaper that is existing shouts out there. And if you get into the details to who is paying the piper and dictating the tune, you realize that the journalist is not working because he's working for the profession, but because he wants to support somebody's interest and make money. And we have been asking, journalists have been asking for an Estates General of Communication to review the 1990 law, which did not take into account digital communication. And you see that this is what is in vogue today. And if we have to give the journalists the upper hand, the ability to function the way they have to function, all these four angles or factors I just named must be taken into consideration, without which we will still come back to this year after year.
Thank you, gentlemen. He has been a journalist for many years, for many decades. Now he is the media regulator. We would like to find out from Joe CHEBONKENG if Cameroon at the moment is where she is supposed to be in terms of press freedom.
Press freedom to me is a constant quest, and you cannot at any given time say that we have attained press freedom or we have not attained press freedom. It depends on the media organs operating within the society. But if we were to judge from the laws, we are coming from a system which I qualify as a repressive system, because newspaper organs that were granted authorization to operate in the country used to submit dummy copies to the administration before the print. And there were instances where we had blank spaces in the newspapers because those articles were considered subversive, in quotes. And so they were scrapped from that edition, and so we had blank spaces. We have moved, and in the past, only the national broadcaster had the monopoly of broadcasting in Cameroon. Today, with the 1990 laws, which Cameroonians qualify as the liberty laws, we have a plethora of electronic media organs in the country, and radio, television, and even online broadcasting. Today, we have several newspapers with diverse opinions on issues that deal with national interest. If I were to judge on that, I would say the press in Cameroon is free. But we have had complaints from journalists that access to information is not yet a given, and that the legislator in Cameroon should depenalize press offenses. Those are what we receive as complaints from the press. It's not our duty. But the laws themselves require that the journalist should be responsible, because freedom is not free. Freedom is within the ambits of the law. So on that score, I would say that the liberty laws or laws on press freedom have made it absolutely free. And if those who say that access to information is not yet a given, I would say make yourself credible in the eyes of those who give you the information, and they will trust you and give you the information.
Make yourself credible in the eyes of those who are holding information, and they will give you information. You buy with that?
The question I'm asking is, how do you make yourself credible? as a journalist in Cameroon, the same people holding you to account to make yourself credible are the people we're expecting to make the ground leveled enough for us to make ourselves credible, so that we can be able to knock at these doors and ask for information.
Which means that being credible is the first obstacle.
It is. It is. How many of us as journalists have press cards in Cameroon? What is even the procedure in getting one? And people, I know of journalists who have applied for that and they've never had one. What does it even take? Now, I think that it is one thing to give food to a hungry child, and it's another to tell the child how to eat. I mean, you're talking to a child that has been starved. The child is hungry. You finally brought the food, but you are there to tell the child how to eat. These are two things that you must be able to reconcile to make sense of what is going on out there. And to reconcile that, it's a bit difficult until the father understands that you really cannot tell a hungry child how to eat the food you've given him.
Or not to cry when the
not to cry when beaten.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe I ask you this question. You have over 15 to 20 years of experience. Have you been harassed before or beaten in line of duty?
Yes, severally. But before I come back to that, let me just say a word to, regarding what Joe CHEBONKEng just said.
Yes.
You cannot admit the fact that journalists don't have access to information. You evoke the fact that there should be an agency to make it possible for them to have that information. And at the same time, you talk of credibility. I mean, it's for me, it's saying nothing. He should have pushed.
Maybe he's simply saying that some people do not give out information because they are not sure of the journalists that are standing in front of them.
No, but I mean, why would you doubt a journalist? Why would you doubt a journalist? If the doubt, you are doubting, you should be doubting yourself. It means, as a matter of fact, you have something to hide. I mean, if you have nothing to hide, you should be able to talk to a journalist at any time.
So back to my question now.
Yes.
Yes. I was asking if
as a matter of fact, I've had it hot 2 or 3 times. In Sawa Hotel, there was a ceremony, and I mean there were some soldiers, I don't know, some guards, and when we tried to probe, you know, there were 4 of us. In fact, we were badly sequestrated, and that's not the only situation. I think somewhere in Nobel, somebody just said, "Those are journalists. We don't want journalists here. We don't want journalists here." So it's a very risky.
You asked a very pertinent question, and Joe CHEBONKEng raised that journalists should be credible. And you asked, how credible should the journalists be? Now, credibility is on multiple fronts. First, on the part of the journalist, the person who says he's a journalist, is he qualified to be? If he's qualified, and he knows the rules of the game, he's qualified and he's credible. Secondly, is he credible in terms of presenting the facts the way they are? Because sometimes you give out the story and what you get in return is something else. At that level of content, that's why I insisted on content creation and treatment. At that level, you must prove that you are credible. On the third, we say journalists speak. Even gestural communication is something that's very important. Sometimes we journalists appear out there not like people who are responsible. Okay? And so people doubt your quality of a personality before getting into the kind of personality you are. Empowerment, like I said, it's something very critical. And I had wanted Joe to say they are thinking about pushing the government and all stakeholders to sit down and review the 1990 liberty laws, because all of what we are talking about is hooked. They're all hooked
somewhere
in the law, because the law says that anybody who can afford to own a media house can't do so. So business people can come in with editorial lines that don't even have anything to do with the ontology. They come in and then they say, if you have been somebody who has been reporting, even without training, after a number of years, you can claim the title of a journalist. And that doesn't work, because before you qualify as one, there are lots of criteria which you have to present and be qualified before you are granted the status. And that is what is really hampering the job of journalists in this country. Until we are getting to saying that there's no press freedom, there is, but the way we handle the freedom that is given to us and the way those who are supposed to check the process is still not really acceptable.
Mr. Wa, let's take Jude. Jude, you are the president of one of the biggest journalism associations in Cameroon, CAMASEJ. What are you doing in terms of trying to fight for the rights of journalists, or trying to fight for the prevention of journalists being harassed or being beaten in line of duty?
I think one of the first things is for people to understand the role. You want to make it a fight for all of us citizens. If we agree that journalists are important, then the entire society needs to protect journalists, and that's why we keep on at every instance that such an embarrassment, because it's an embarrassment for us as a country, as a people, that because a journalist is there to do his job, he's being harassed, he's being threatened, he's being incarcerated, and some have even lost their lives in the line of duty. It is an embarrassment for the rest of us, and we think that society needs to join us together to cry foul and to say, no, this needs to stop. It is important that it stops, because these ladies and gentlemen of the press are playing an important role for our society to be able to be worthwhile, to be able to stand upright, to be a modern society. So we will not cease to call out when that happens. But our wish is that it should not happen. Not for us to do the firefighting after when it has happened. What is the use when we make all the noise when a journalist must have lost their eye? But now, where we come in also is that there should not be impunity. People should not commit crimes against journalists and go away with it. First of all, it's a human rights abuse when you pound on somebody or when you threaten and all of that. And people should not use their positions, or be they are in authority or because of their influence to do that. And so it is important that those who do that, the judiciary should show us how independent they are by prosecuting those who do that. Because, in my own opinion, it's a crime against humanity on courts, because you are harassing somebody on whom humanity depends. It's like going to take of a war situation and 2 or 3 doctors are there, and you deprive people from having those doctors. You have asked them that, you are basically saying that they should die because they will not have access to the doctor. So if you are harassing and threatening and beating up journalists, it's in a way fact you are telling the entire world that these people who provide information on which people depend should not, people don't realize it, but just the fact that there's a journalist there on air, saying that there is a traffic flow is congested. You make a decision whether you want to go out or what time you don't want to go out, or just so you see in effect every day. Because when we talk about informing for decision making, people look at it to be really very huge. If you, Mr. Chia, you are shortlisted to be appointed somewhere, and we're digging into your background and we realize that you have been a con artist or you don't fit that office, and there's a succinct report with evidence-based, you can be kept away so that you don't become a disaster for the country. So it's an important role that we are playing, and I implore all the journalists to remain heads up, heads high, and know that they're doing a wonderful job for humanity and should be proud to be journalists.
Now, Mr. Joe, the National Communication Council, aside from checking the excesses of the media, I think the council equally has that role of protecting journalists. On this Day of Press Freedom Day, tell us, how often does the council play that role?
No. Okay. This is what I would the advice I would give you: work within professional ethics and work within the deontology of the profession. You would move on broken bottles and you will not be hurt. That's my advice. And when you know that a story is sensitive, we as journalists have been given tenets within which we can navigate even when a story is very sensitive and delicate. And at times, the responsibility which we have as journalists will force us not to publish a story, because publishing it at this given point makes the story more dangerous than letting out information as such. And there is a way you can send a teaser to the public in your write-up or in your report without necessarily calling names and incriminating individuals. And they would know that, those who read the story will know that you have an insight to that story. So our profession has given us the tools to handle delicate stories without necessarily compromising our freedom or the independence and, again, ourselves. Because when you get to be harassed, it means that there is something wrong. I know that at some time you can have overzealous individuals, be them in the judiciary or politicians, who would either be at the beck and call. You can call some people to harass you, but the law that governs the National Communication Council also indicates or states that if any journalist is harassed in the process of exercising his duties as a journalist, the National Communication Council has the responsibility of going to the official concerned or the judicial organ concerned and requesting that that journalist be released, and then the issue handed over to the National Communication Council for a better assessment, because we are the people charged with the responsibility of handling press offenses, except it gets to defamation, where you can go to the court to seek redress.
Thank you. Remain professional. If I should maybe kind of summarize what he says, if you remain professional, you will hardly get harassed.
You know, I think so. That's true. Yeah, in the right quarters. Yeah. Yes, and if you remain professional, if you are truly professional, it's difficult to be harassed. I think I agree with what he said there. If you are really truly professional, it's difficult to be harassed, especially in the right settings. But unfortunately, there are places where you never
somebody will not give you a listening ear before harassing you.
Yes, that's the position. If you are truly if you are truly professional, you cannot be harassed.
Talking about the professionalism, what would you say about the professionalism within the Cameroonian landscape at this point in time? Because he was trying to make mention of the fact that quacks, everybody is invading the profession, and a lot of things are going on air unprofessionally.
Yes, I think that we have fine journalists in Cameroon, as well as we have people who have invaded the profession because they are hungry and they need food to eat.
Are you sure there's food in it?
That is the irony. They think there is enough food in it. Unfortunately, well, when they get in, they make the profession what it is, because they came in to look for food. Well, I want to tell them, journalism is not where you find hungry people. Rather, this is a place where you find passionate people who are ready to serve. That is what should motivate you to be part of the journalism call. Regarding the quality of journalism in Cameroon, I wouldn't want to say that because of some few cases we should question the quality of journalism in Cameroon. We have fine journalists in Cameroon doing their best, and we need to appreciate them for that. It's also true that excesses need to be checked. And when this happens, we cannot dismiss the fact that there is no freedom of the press in Cameroon. Someone was telling me off the microphones, I think before we got into the studio, that there is the Cameroonian version of everything that exists in the world. And so when we talk about freedom of the press, there is the Cameroonian version of freedom of the press. And you want to think that the person is right, but at the same time, you're worried that this is exactly what has kept us in one position for a very long time. When the world is catching up with what is genuine and progressive, we are celebrating somewhat mediocrity or something. We wouldn't want to be known for all of that. So we can make progress in as much as we think that some progress has been made over time, checking the excesses of the journalists and that of the government. Because what is freedom of the press?
Yes.
Right to disseminate information without restraint, interference of the government. But again, information deemed legal.
Doc, the journalists you train in school and the ones you see on the field, do they reflect what you always teach them to do, or some of them are going astray?
You know, theory sometimes is not practice. It's not the practical part of it, because the reality is not in the training in school. Reality is in the practice. Because what you get from school as a theory may be different in the field, because the application of what you have in school may be circumscribed to some other things than what you intended to have. Like we are all saying, it boils down to one thing. All stakeholders involved should know their part, should know their role. The journalist should know that he is there to educate, is to inform and to entertain. And we've added another one for economic development, because without the economy we cannot be sitting to talk politics. And then once the administration knows that it is its right to give out the information to the journalists, the legal department knows that if the journalist defames, they have to question the journalist so that there's equity. Equity is served. The journalist has the right to get the information. The people who have to be fed with the information have the right to authentic information, and those who are checking have the right to check without bias. Like Joe was saying, there were some excesses in the field. Yes, but why do people take upon themselves to harass journalists and the people are not called up for questioning? That's the question. So all stakeholders must play their role, must play their part in such a way that the only possibility of dividing a fight, if at all it has to occur, is when the National Communications Council or the courts have to come in to clear the situation.
Jude, we are talking about professionalism, and we all acknowledge the fact that quacks have invaded the profession. So World Press Freedom Day 2024, if you have a word of caution for journalists out there, what would that be?
Your name is your credibility, and once there's that erosion because you are careless, because you do not verify information, because you peddle rumors, because you peddle misinformation, you misinform, or because you carry on fake news. Once you've lost that credibility, that's the end for you as a journalist. So do you want to lose your name, which is your only, which is your, should I say, it's like your capital. So every business, who would like to get rid of his capital? You know, so you look at your name and so the more you do it rightly, the more you build your credibility in such a way that if it's not coming from you, nobody believes it. It is something that is goodwill that you build over time. And journalists should be patient and build their name. When you build your name, we might not have the money, but you'll be a celebrity. So try to do the right thing and be a celebrity and be celebrated. Let people count on you. Have a platform where people can know something is happening in Bamenda. They say, okay, we prefer to go to this. Don't be in a rush to break the news and finally bring it in pieces. You know, do your work diligently, but also know that you have a challenge now of the digital world and you need to catch up with that. So, and like I want to insist again that something needs to be done about journalism in terms of take-home pay. Because what I've realized, like most people, the diagnosis that we've seen is that after a decade, people put in a decade, journalists put in a decade, when they are already getting mature in terms of their, professionalism, that is when they decide to leave the profession and go corporate. It is not their intention to go corporate, but they want to survive, they want to live, they want to exist. And so financially. And so that is, we are losing. The profession is losing people to the corporate world. And if something is not done, we keep on having immature journalists all the time. We train them, they come, they spend time, get a name, and then the corporate world snatches them because we are not taking care. So it's important that we start, the state and all the actors start. And I also want to make an appeal to all the journalists, and this is an appeal for the revival of the Cameroon Union of Journalists. In as much as we are into different associations with different specificities, and from preaching from different chapels and the rest, we should have a common cathedral, which should be Cameroon Union of Journalists, so that together this one can be like our trade union, so that we can fight for our rights as one person. I'm not dismissing that we should not have different, of course we have it as English-speaking journalists, because we believe that the way the trade is practiced from the Anglo-Saxon background is different from where it's practiced when it comes to Francophone. We are more investigative, we're more daring and things like that, based on the culture. And so that's why we felt that we need to come up with English-speaking in order to protect that trade, which makes us stand different. So I really appeal is that if there's a way we have to, as journalists, to appealing to all journalists, let us find a way to revive our Cameroon Union of Journalists. In Kenya, you have their own union, Nigeria, but that doesn't stop people from coming together as journalists who are reporting environment, or journalists who are reporting sports, but at the end of the day, now we have a cathedral where all of us can flow in and just talk journalism, be it private, be it public, and we just see journalism as it's supposed to be.
The President of the National Communication Council, the council is a media watchdog, and we are celebrating journalists this day in Cameroon, though many are celebrating and crying, trying to review what to do next. So if you have a message for journalists this year, as you've often dwell on professionalism, what would that message be?
The first thing I would want to say is to congratulate the traditional press organs in Cameroon. I want to say that there's been a positive evolution in terms of the attitude which journalists display in the coverage of events in Cameroon today. We will not stop to encourage them and to educate and to sensitize them, because we are living through a very dangerous period of our history, and we need to be more responsible in our outings, even when we are at the beck and call of quote and unquote the powerful. We must assume the responsibility which is ours. We have a social responsibility towards our public, and that social responsibility is maintaining peace and harmony. And the moral obligation is making sure that you don't publish what morally would destroy the environment in which you are, or else you lose that credibility of being a journalist. We are facing another serious problem, and that's the advent of the social media. There is little control, because we are dealing with, besides journalists who publish online, we have citizen journalists. And so that's where I would say the journalists should try as much as possible to remain credible in the eyes of the public and publish online, so that when the citizen journalist publishes something, the ordinary citizen will go to your page to be able to verify the authenticity of the story. And that way, we would still be at the forefront of information delivery to our public. So, happy Press Freedom Day.
Thank you so much. The President of the National Communication Council is urging journalists to embrace new technology. But unfortunately, we have some, I don't want to say old, but journalists that have been in the field that do not want to integrate themselves with new technology.
It's important, it's really important to integrate these new technologies. They are rapid and they can do a lot of work for the media. The next thing which I wanted to say, and which I think the National Communication President is really hit the nail on the hammer on the nail, is that we should be patient and probe the news properly before, because you might paradoxically want to create a problem but create a violent situation, and that can be very dangerous. After all, not all truth is necessary. You know, love binds and protects the people. Thank you.
Doc, we are almost moving out.
Yeah, I think it's a call for responsibility. We should be responsible in the way we handle events. Social media have come, and citizen journalism is like taking an upper hand. Although they serve as alert, we are not dismissing them entirely, but then we should know how to walk the fine line between those who give their alerts in the wrong way and how we absorb and accept the alerts. I think we are all agreed on the fact that there should be a review of how the profession in Cameroon is handled, especially reviewing the 1990 law on communication. That is very important. And my appeal will be that there should be an Estate General to review our profession in Cameroon. He said it very clearly. So I'm calling for responsibility in this profession. Yes.
Mr. Awa, your last word?
Yes, reacting to what the National Communication President just said, Council President just said, I think it's a call for responsibility on the part of the journalist. For you to be credible enough, you have to be responsible. You don't just publish because you have the information. You also are conscious of the consequences, the impact. You might have the truth with you, but if it's going to burn the whole house down, it's not necessary. So we also have the moral responsibility to publish information that promotes peace and unity. As a journalist, I think that should be at the back of the mind of every journalist if you must be responsible enough.
Thank you, Jude VIBAN, the National President of CAMASEJ. It has been a pleasure having you this day on 360 Degrees.
Thank you so much, and I would have loved to be with you on your plateau, and want to congratulate you for the job you are doing, most especially because I've realized that with your program there is multiple voices. You bring in different people so that the same people don't hijack the media. We need various voices in the media, and I've seen that that's what you have been doing, and kudos to you. Before you know it, you know, your address book will be so huge. So, and if you keep on with that, I think your program will stand out and will be different. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. It is here that we draw the curtains of the program. Do not forget to watch the rebroadcast on Wednesday at 11 p.m. if you miss out on anything. Till we meet again on Saturday, 12 p.m. Stay safe. Bye-bye.